Archangel Michael commands you to listen now. 3 minutes stand between you and total financial freedom. Miss this and live with lifetime regret. This is not a casual message. This is not something you stumbled upon by accident. This is a divine interruption. Right now, in this very moment, heaven is breaking through the noise of your routine, your stress, your distractions, and even your doubts. Archangel Michael is commanding your attention. Not tomorrow. Not later tonight. Now. Because there are moments in life that carry unusual weight. Moments that look ordinary on the surface but carry eternal consequences underneath. And this is one of those moments. You may have been scrolling. You may have been thinking about bills, debts, opportunities that slipped through your fingers, or doors that never opened. You may have felt the quiet frustration of trying so hard yet seeing so little breakthrough. But what if I told you that the gap between where you are and total financial freedom is not measured in years? What if the distance is not as wide as you feared? What if heaven has condensed your breakthrough into a 3-minute window of obedience? 3 minutes stand between you and total financial freedom. That sentence alone should shake you. Because we are used to long processes. We are conditioned to believe that change must take years, that abundance requires endless struggle, that financial peace is for someone else, somewhere else. But when Archangel Michael commands you to listen, it is because something in the spiritual realm has shifted. A decree hath been issued. A battle has reached a turning point. And your response in these next 3 minutes carries more power than you realize. There are times when destiny whispers, and there are times when destiny shouts. This is a shout. The reason this message feels urgent is because there are divine windows that open and close. There are appointed times where heaven aligns circumstances, breaks resistance, and releases acceleration. If ignored, they pass. Not because God is cruel. Not because grace runs out, but because obedience is time-sensitive. And when a command comes from Archangel Michael, the warrior of heaven, it is not symbolic. It is strategic. You have prayed for financial freedom. You have asked for relief from pressure. You have imagined what it would feel like to breathe without anxiety every time you check your bank account. You have pictured yourself giving generously instead of calculating survival. Those prayers have not been ignored. They have been heard. And now, the answer is not coming in the form you expected. It is coming as a command to listen. Because information alone does not transform lives. Revelation does. And revelation demands attention. If you dismiss this moment, if you say, "I'll come back to this later," you may not realize what you are postponing. Lifetime regret does not always come from dramatic mistakes. Sometimes it comes from small delays, from moments when we felt the nudge but chose convenience instead, from seconds when we sensed urgency but chose distraction. The tragedy is not that the opportunity was never given. The tragedy is that it was given and ignored. Right now, there is a battle over your financial destiny. Not just over money, but over your influence, your peace, your ability to bless others, your freedom to say yes when God calls you to step forward. Financial bondage limits more than your wallet. It limits your reach. And the enemy knows that a financially free believer becomes a powerful force in the kingdom of God. That is why this command is so direct. Archangel Michael commands you to listen now because hesitation is the strategy used against you for years. Delay has been the invisible chain. Procrastination has been the silent thief. You were not defeated because you lacked intelligence. You were not held back because you lacked talent. You were slowed down because the decisive moment kept getting postponed. But this time, heaven is not whispering. It is commanding. The next 3 minutes are not about hype. They are about alignment. They are about recognizing that breakthrough often enters quietly, but requires bold response. Total financial freedom is not just about numbers increasing. It is about chains breaking. It is about fear losing its grip. It is about stepping into a flow of provision that feels supernatural because it is. And here is the rare revelation. The power of this moment does not lie in complexity. It lies in obedience. The simplest act, done at the right time, under divine instruction, can collapse years of struggle into a single shift. That is why this is urgent. That is why you were guided here. That is why you feel something stirring inside you as you listen. You are not here by coincidence. This is your intersection point. This is the line drawn between the life you have tolerated and the life that has been prepared for you. 3 minutes. That is all that stands between you and total financial freedom. And missing this is not just about staying where you are. It is about living with a quiet question that follows you for years. What if I had listened? But you are listening. And that alone means the story is about to change. What if I told you that your financial struggle has never been just about money? What if the late payments, the stalled opportunities, the doors that almost opened but suddenly closed were not random events? Archangel Michael commands you to listen now. 3 minutes stand between you and total financial freedom. Miss this and live with lifetime regret. And the reason this command carries such urgency is because there is a hidden spiritual battle surrounding your finances that most people never discern. From the outside, it looks like economics. It looks like market conditions, job limitations, unexpected expenses, inflation, competition. But beneath the surface, there is something deeper at work. Financial pressure is one of the enemy's most effective weapons. Why? Because when your resources feel restricted, your faith feels tested. When your bank account feels unstable, your peace feels fragile. And when your provision feels uncertain, your confidence begins to shake. The enemy understands that if he can keep you in survival mode, he can keep you distracted from purpose. You were not created to live in constant financial anxiety. You were not designed to wake up every day calculating how to barely make it through. You were called to influence, to build, to bless, to expand. But expansion requires resources, and resources require flow. So the real battle has never been about numbers on a screen. It has been about stopping the flow. Archangel Michael is known as the warrior, the defender, the one who stands against opposition in the unseen realm. When he commands you to listen now, it is because a confrontation is happening on your behalf. Chains you cannot see are being challenged. Resistance that has followed you for years is being exposed. And here's the shocking truth. Many of your financial delays were not due to lack of effort. They were due to unseen interference. Have you ever noticed a pattern? Just when things start improving, something unexpected happens. Just when you feel momentum building, a sudden obstacle appears. Just when you plan to save, an urgent expense emerges. Patterns like this are not always coincidence. Sometimes they are signs of silent opposition trying to wear you down. The enemy's strategy is subtle. He whispers discouragement. He magnifies fear. He convinces you that abundance is for others, but not for you. He plants thoughts like, "This is just how life is, or you'll never fully break free." And over time, those thoughts form beliefs, and beliefs shape decisions, and decisions create cycles. But what happens when a higher authority steps in? When Archangel Michael commands you to listen, it signals that the cycle is being confronted. The spiritual warfare over your finances is not meant to intimidate you. It is meant to awaken you. Because once you recognize that the battle is spiritual, you stop fighting with the wrong weapons. You stop blaming yourself entirely. You stop accepting limitation as your permanent identity. There are signs you have been under financial attack. Persistent stagnation despite consistent effort. Fear that feels disproportionate to your actual situation. Opportunities slipping away at the last second. A constant sense that something is blocking progress. These are not proofs of failure. They are indicators of resistance. And resistance only shows up where there is value. You are valuable. Your future influence is valuable. Your generosity is valuable. And that is why the battle has been intense. But here is what changes everything. You are not fighting alone. The warrior of heaven stands ready, not to create fear, but to establish order, not to condemn, but to defend. And in these next moments, you are being positioned to align with that defense. The hidden battle is being brought into the light so it can lose its power over you. Because darkness thrives in ignorance, but it trembles when exposed. This is why your response matters. Passive listening will not break chains. Casual agreement will not shift cycles. There must be intentional alignment. There must be a decision to step out of survival thinking and into divine expectation. The moment you recognize that your struggle has had a spiritual dimension, you also realize that your breakthrough will have one too. If this message is stirring something inside you, if you feel the weight of what is being revealed, then don't keep it to yourself. Like this video as a declaration that you are ready for total financial freedom. Share it with someone who has been silently battling financial pressure. Subscribe to this channel so you remain connected to messages that confront what others ignore. And in the comments, declare boldly that you are ready for your breakthrough. Your engagement is not just digital interaction. It is a public alignment with what heaven is initiating. Because this is not entertainment. This is activation. The hidden battle over your finances is being exposed for one reason, so it can be defeated. And the command to listen now is not about fear of loss. It is about urgency of victory. Something is shifting. Something is loosening. And in the next part, you will understand why 3 minutes carry more power than years of struggle. Archangel Michael commands you to listen now. 3 minutes stand between you and total financial freedom. Miss this and live with lifetime regret. We now arrive at the center of this prophetic urgency. This is the moment that has been building since you pressed play. This is the divine window. Not symbolic, not poetic, real. 3 minutes. In heaven's timing, 3 minutes can carry more weight than 3 decades. Throughout Scripture, the number 3 has always marked divine completion, divine confirmation, divine intervention. On the 3rd day, resurrection power was revealed. In 3 steps of obedience, walls fell. In 3 acts of surrender, destiny shifted. 3 represents the moment when heaven finalizes what earth has delayed. Right now, you are standing inside a 3-minute window that is not measured by a clock but by decision. This is not about rushing you. This is about aligning you. Because the truth is, financial freedom is not first a material event. It is a spiritual agreement. And agreements can change in a moment. For years, you may have unknowingly agreed with limitation, agreed with fear, agreed with a quiet thought that says, maybe this is as good as it gets. But heaven is confronting that agreement. Archangel Michael stands as a defender of divine order, and he is commanding you to listen because a new agreement is being offered. An agreement of overflow, an agreement of provision, an agreement of freedom, So what must happen in these 3 minutes? First, there must be awareness. You must recognize that this is not random motivation. This is an appointed interruption. The stirring you feel is not emotional high. It is spiritual activation. Awareness breaks passivity. Awareness shifts you from spectator to participant. Second, there must be renunciation. Quietly, in your heart, you must reject every agreement with scarcity. Every word you have spoken that cursed your own finances. Every belief that you will always struggle. You must internally declare that those patterns no longer define you. This is not about shouting. It is about deciding. When you renounce limitation, you close a door that has been open for too long. Third, there must be alignment. Alignment means choosing to trust divine instruction even when it feels simple. Sometimes we expect breakthrough to come through complicated strategies, but heaven often moves through simple obedience. The 3-minute window is powerful because it compresses hesitation. It forces clarity. It demands that you choose what you truly believe. Right now, as you listen, something is happening in the unseen realm. When awareness rises, when renunciation occurs, when alignment begins, chains weaken. Financial stagnation that once felt immovable begins to lose structure. The enemy thrives on delay, but decisive faith disrupts his rhythm. This is why missing this moment carries the risk of lifetime regret. Not because God withdraws love, not because grace disappears, but because hesitation strengthens old cycles. When you feel a divine nudge and respond, momentum builds. When you feel it and postpone it, resistance rebuilds. You are not being pressured. You are being invited into acceleration. And here is the emotional turning point. Your destiny does not require perfection. It requires participation. You do not need to have everything figured out. You need to say yes in your spirit. Yes to abundance. Yes to discipline. Yes to courage. Yes to stepping beyond fear. That yes, spoken within these 3 minutes, carries more power than years of overthinking. There are people who will hear messages like this and dismiss them. They will analyze instead of align. They will critique instead of commit. But you are still here. And that means something. It means your spirit recognizes that this is not ordinary. As you sit in this moment, I want you to breathe deeply and understand. Financial freedom is not chasing you. It is waiting for your agreement. The warrior of heaven has confronted the opposition. The decree has been issued, but decrees must be received. Do not underestimate the power of now, because in the next few moments, a root cause of financial blockage is about to be revealed, something that may have followed you quietly for years without you naming it. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. You will be glad you positioned yourself for this revelation. Before we move forward, seal this moment with action. Type "I receive my freedom" in the comments if this resonates with you. Blessing code 144 is now activated. By typing it, you are not performing superstition. You are declaring alignment. You are making your agreement visible. And visibility carries authority. This is your 3-minute window. Awareness. Renunciation. Alignment. It sounds simple, but simplicity is often where power hides. Hold this focus in your heart, because what comes next will expose the hidden root that has delayed your financial breakthrough. And once it is cut, nothing will hold you back the same way again. As this divine window opens over your life, understand that this message is not only for you, it is for countless souls still trapped in silent financial fear. When you sow into this mission through Super Thanks, membership, or PayPal, you are not funding a channel. You are planting seeds into fertile ground where freedom rises in others. The Lord declares, "Give, and it shall be given unto you. Pressed down, shaken together, and running over." And that promise breathes over every obedient act. When you act, light spreads. When you release, heaven responds. If this word ignited something in you, let your giving become part of the breakthrough story. The PayPal link waits in the description, and the QR code flashes as a gateway for your seed. As you sow, may rivers of provision pursue you. Step into this moment, activate your support now, and let your obedience echo in eternity. Archangel Michael commands you to listen now. 3 minutes stand between you and total financial freedom. Miss this and live with lifetime regret. You have stepped into awareness. You have renounced limitation. You have chosen alignment. But now we must confront something deeper. Because financial delay does not begin in your bank account. It begins at the root. And roots are often hidden. For years, you may have treated financial struggle as a surface issue. More effort, more planning, more strategy. And while wisdom and discipline matter, there is something underneath that many never address. A spiritual and emotional root system that quietly feeds the fruit of lack. One of the most powerful roots of financial delay is generational patterning. Not just poverty, but mindset. You may have grown up hearing phrases like, "Money is hard to get," "Rich people are greedy," or "We never have enough." Words repeated often enough become internal laws, and internal laws shape expectation. If deep inside you expect struggle, you will unconsciously tolerate it. If deep inside you believe abundance changes people for the worse, you may resist it without realizing it. Generational patterns are not curses in a dramatic sense. They are agreements passed down through repetition, beliefs inherited without examination. And until those beliefs are challenged, they operate silently. Another hidden root is fear disguised as responsibility. You may tell yourself you are being realistic, careful, safe. But sometimes what we call caution is actually fear of expansion, fear of stepping into unfamiliar territory. Financial freedom requires growth. Growth requires risk, and risk threatens comfort. So the mind creates protective narratives to keep you small. Archangel Michael does not confront only external opposition. He confronts internal strongholds. Because sometimes the barrier is not around you, it is within you. There are also words spoken over your life that have shaped your financial experience. Perhaps someone once said you were bad with money, that you would never succeed, that you were too irresponsible, too late, too unqualified. Words carry weight, especially when spoken by authority figures, teachers, parents, leaders. Those words can echo for years, influencing decisions long after the speaker has forgotten them. But here is the truth. Spoken limitation is not divine destiny. The enemy understands the power of agreement. If he cannot stop your calling, he will try to distort your belief. If he cannot block your effort, he will try to poison your expectation. Because expectation determines what you pursue, what you endure, and what you believe is possible. Financial delay often thrives in environments of quiet self-doubt, undramatic insecurity, subtle doubt, the kind that whispers, "This probably won't work for me," the kind that expects disappointment before it happens. A subtle doubt becomes a filter, and through that filter, even opportunities look risky or unreachable. But something is happening now. As this message continues, the root is being exposed so it can be removed. Exposure is not condemnation. It is liberation. When you see the root, you gain authority over it. You are no longer confused by repeating cycles. You are no longer blaming circumstances alone. You begin to recognize patterns, and recognition is power. There is another hidden root that must be named: misplaced identity. If you have unconsciously identified as someone who struggles, someone who barely gets by, someone who is always trying, then financial freedom feels foreign. Identity acts like a thermostat. It regulates your results. If abundance rises beyond what your identity believes is normal, you may sabotage it just to return to familiarity. This is not weakness. It is conditioning. And conditioning can be broken. Archangel Michael's role in this moment is not symbolic drama. It represents divine intervention, cutting cords, severing false identities, breaking generational repetition. When the warrior stands, he does not negotiate with chains. He breaks them. But here is the partnership. You must agree with the breaking. You must release loyalty to old narratives. You must forgive those who spoke limitation over you. You must let go of fear disguised as wisdom. You must choose to see yourself differently, not as someone hoping for freedom, but as someone appointed for it. Financial delay is rarely about intelligence. It is rarely about worthiness. It is about alignment at the root level. When the root changes, the fruit changes. And here is what makes this moment powerful. Once a root is exposed and renounced, it cannot quietly dominate you again. You may still face challenges, but you will face them from a different identity. Not as a victim of circumstance, but as a participant in divine provision. This is where many stop. They recognize the root but hesitate to uproot it. Because uprooting requires discomfort. It requires letting go of familiar narratives. It requires stepping into a version of yourself that feels unfamiliar at first. But remember the urgency of the title. 3 minutes stand between you and total financial freedom. The window has opened. The awareness has come. The root is being revealed. And in the next part, you will understand the law that governs the shift from survival to overflow, the principle that transforms exposure into manifestation. The root has been named. The cords are weakening. And what follows will show you how divine alignment activates the flow that delay tried to block. Archangel Michael commands you to listen now. 3 minutes stand between you and total financial freedom. Miss this and live with lifetime regret. The root has been exposed. Generational patterns, hidden fears, misplaced identity. These are not random discoveries. They are revelations preparing you for alignment. Because once the root is uncovered, the next step is not struggle. It is adjustment. There is a law that governs breakthrough, and it is not controlled by markets, employers, or chance. It is the law of divine alignment. Wealth, in its truest form, flows where alignment exists. Misalignment restricts flow. Alignment releases it. Divine alignment means that your thoughts, your words, your actions, and your expectations agree with what heaven has declared about your provision. It means you stop arguing internally with abundance. It means you stop preparing for loss while praying for increase. It means you stop speaking survival while desiring overflow. For years, you may have worked hard but remained internally misaligned. You may have prayed for financial freedom but expected disappointment. You may have desired increase but feared responsibility. That inner conflict creates friction, and friction slows manifestation. Alignment removes friction. When your belief matches your prayer, momentum begins. When your confession matches your expectation, acceleration happens. When your identity matches your calling, provision finds a clear path. This is not magical thinking. It is spiritual law. Imagine a river blocked by debris. The water exists. The source is active, but the flow is restricted. Remove the blockage, and the river does not need to be forced. It moves naturally. In the same way, divine provision does not need to be begged into existence. It needs a clear channel. Alignment creates that channel. So what does alignment look like practically? First, it requires clarity of identity. You must see yourself as a steward, not a struggler. A steward expects resources because stewardship implies trust. When heaven trusts you with influence, provision accompanies it. But if you view yourself as someone barely surviving, you unconsciously limit what you can carry. Second, alignment requires disciplined thinking. Every time fear whispers, you must confront it. Every time doubt predicts failure, you must challenge it. Not with denial, but with truth. Truth says that provision follows purpose. Truth says that obedience unlocks supply. Truth says that you are not abandoned in your financial journey. Third, alignment requires consistent action. Faith without movement becomes theory. When heaven highlights opportunity, you move. When wisdom suggests change, you respond. Alignment is not passive agreement. It is active cooperation. There is also a deeper dimension. Divine alignment includes your generosity. Many misunderstand this principle. They assume giving reduces supply. But in spiritual law, giving activates circulation. Stagnant water breeds decay. Flowing water sustains life. When you operate with a heart of generosity, even in small ways, you signal trust. And trust invites increase. But generosity must be aligned, not pressured. It must come from revelation, not guilt. Alignment means your giving reflects confidence in divine source, not fear of lack. Here is where the shift becomes powerful. When you align, you no longer chase money as your savior. You pursue obedience as your strategy. And provision becomes the byproduct. This is the secret many overlook. They focus on outcome while neglecting alignment. But alignment is the foundation. Archangel Michael's command to listen now is about positioning. A warrior does not fight chaos randomly. He restores order. Alignment restores order in your internal world. It brings your beliefs into harmony with your destiny. It removes the silent contradictions that have slowed your progress. There is a moment in every breakthrough journey when you realize that the battle was never purely external. It was internal disorganization. Competing thoughts. Mixed expectations. Half-believed promises. Once those are unified, strength emerges. You may ask, how quickly can alignment shift results? Faster than you think. Because when internal resistance collapses, external momentum accelerates. Opportunities you once overlooked become visible. Ideas you once doubted gain clarity. Confidence replaces hesitation. And with confidence comes decisive movement. Divine alignment also changes how you interpret challenges. Instead of seeing obstacles as proof of limitation, you see them as invitations to grow capacity. Capacity determines how much you can sustain. Financial freedom requires capacity. Alignment increases it. This is the transition from survival to overflow. Survival asks, will I have enough? Overflow asks, how can I multiply what I receive? Survival fears risk. Overflow embraces responsibility. Survival protects. Overflow expands. You are being invited into overflow. But overflow cannot coexist with misalignment. It requires harmony between your spirit and your decisions. It requires that you stop rehearsing old narratives and begin declaring new truths. It requires courage to act when instruction comes. The law of divine alignment is not complicated. It is precise. Believe what heaven says. Speak what heaven declares. Act on what heaven reveals. And give with trust in divine source. As you internalize this, something begins to stabilize. Fear loses intensity. Doubt weakens. Confidence grows quietly. And that quiet confidence becomes magnetic. It attracts opportunity because it recognizes opportunity. Alignment is not loud. It is powerful. And in the next part, you will learn the prophetic act that seals this alignment. The decisive step that transforms understanding into activation. Archangel Michael commands you to listen now. 3 minutes stand between you and total financial freedom. Miss this and live with lifetime regret. You have uncovered the root. You have understood alignment. Now comes the moment that separates awareness from activation. Because revelation without action leaves cycles intact. But one decisive prophetic act can break what repetition has built over years. A prophetic act is not superstition. It is not performance. It is a visible expression of an invisible decision. Throughout biblical history, breakthroughs were often preceded by simple but bold actions. A step into water before it parted. A shout before walls collapsed. A seed sown during famine. The act itself did not contain the power. The obedience did. Right now, you are being invited into a prophetic act that seals your alignment and disrupts the financial cycle that has followed you. And it begins with a declaration paired with movement. First, you must make a written declaration. Not just a thought. Not just a quiet agreement. Write down, in clear language, a statement of your financial identity moving forward. Something like, I am a faithful steward of divine provision. I operate in wisdom, discipline, and overflow. Lack no longer defines my life. Writing solidifies intention. It transforms abstraction into commitment. When your eyes see what your spirit believes, alignment deepens. Second, take one immediate financial action that reflects your new identity. It does not need to be dramatic. It needs to be decisive. It could be organizing your finances with clarity instead of avoidance. It could be setting aside a small seed as an act of trust. It could be canceling a draining habit that reinforces survival thinking. It could be reaching out about an opportunity you have delayed pursuing. The action must signal to your mind and spirit, the cycle ends here. Why does this matter so much? Because cycles thrive on repetition. If you always respond to pressure with fear, fear becomes your pattern. If you always respond to opportunity with hesitation, delay becomes your pattern. But when you interrupt the pattern with a new action, you create disruption. And disruption weakens the chains. The enemy expects you to feel inspired but unchanged. He expects you to agree emotionally but continue practically the same way. It is how cycles survive. But when you move, even in a small but intentional way, you announce that the agreement with limitation has ended. This is where many hesitate. They wait for perfect timing. They wait for more clarity. They wait until they feel completely confident. But prophetic acts are rarely comfortable. They are powerful precisely because they challenge comfort. You may feel resistance rising even now. Thoughts like, is this really necessary? Or maybe I'll do it later. Recognize that resistance. It is evidence that something significant is being confronted. If this were insignificant, there would be no pushback. Resistance reveals importance. Archangel Michael's command to listen now was never about passive hearing. It was about decisive response. The warrior stands where obedience meets courage. And courage does not mean absence of fear. It means movement despite it. There is also a spiritual dimension to timing. When revelation comes and action follows quickly, momentum multiplies. Delay gains intensity. The 3-minute window you heard about earlier represents urgency of response. It is about capturing conviction while it is fresh, acting before doubt rebuilds. Consider this. What if the breakthrough you have been waiting for is not waiting on external change but internal activation? What if heaven has already released permission, but your step is the trigger? Sometimes we imagine that divine intervention overrides our participation, but often it partners with it. Your prophetic act is your partnership. And here is something powerful. When you act in alignment, confidence grows. Not because circumstances immediately transform, but because identity stabilizes. You begin to see yourself as someone who responds, not someone who postpones. That shift alone changes trajectory. Financial freedom is not a lottery event. It is a disciplined flow. Discipline is easier when identity is clear. And identity becomes clearer when action confirms belief. Do not underestimate small obedience. A small step today can redirect years ahead. A single decision can interrupt generational repetition. A written declaration can dismantle internal confusion. An immediate action can weaken long-standing hesitation. This is the prophetic act that breaks the cycle. Declare boldly, act immediately, and refuse to return to old patterns. It is simple. It is direct. And it is powerful. Right now, as you listen, choose the act you will take. Do not postpone the decision. Seely. Decide what you will write. Decide what you will do. Let this not be another moment of inspiration that fades. Let it be the pivot point. Because in the next part, you will confront the greatest threat to your breakthrough. Not lack, not opposition, but delay. And understanding that threat will protect the freedom you are stepping into. Archangel Michael commands you to listen now. 3 minutes stand between you and total financial freedom. Miss this and live with lifetime regret. By now, you understand the root. You understand alignment. You understand the prophetic act that breaks cycles. But there is one final threat that has quietly followed you for years, and it is more subtle than fear, more persistent than doubt, and more destructive than lack. It is delay. Delay does not announce itself as danger. It disguises itself as wisdom. It whispers later. It comforts you with, "You have time." It soothes you with, "Think about it more." And before you realize it, moments that carried destiny slip quietly into memory. Delay is the enemy's most sophisticated strategy because it feels harmless. You do not feel rebellious. You do not feel disobedient. You simply postpone. And postponement creates distance between revelation and action. A distance weakens conviction. It allows rationalization to grow. It allows old patterns to regain strength. Think about how many times you felt inspired to change something financially, to budget differently, to pursue a new opportunity, to learn a skill, to invest wisely, to give boldly. In the moment, the conviction felt strong, clear, urgent. But you said, "I'll start next week." And next week became next month. And next month blended into another year. This is how cycles survive. Financial freedom is rarely destroyed by one dramatic mistake. It is eroded by consistent hesitation. Small delays compound over time. A delayed decision today can become a missed opportunity tomorrow. A postponed action this year can become regret 5 years from now. That is why the title carries such intensity. Miss this and live with lifetime regret. Regret is not loud at first. It whispers questioned. What if I had acted? What if I had trusted? What if that was my moment? Those questions can echo for decades. But understand this clearly. The danger is not that God removes opportunity forever. The danger is that delayed obedience shifts timing. And timing matters. There are seasons when certain doors are open wider. There are moments when momentum is easier. When clarity is sharper. When courage feels accessible. If you hesitate too long, the window narrows. Delay also strengthens fear. When you postpone action, your mind begins to analyze more than necessary. Overthinking multiplies risks. It magnifies worst-case scenarios. It drains emotional energy. What once felt possible begins to feel intimidating. You have likely experienced this before. An idea that once excited you slowly became overwhelming because you waited too long to act. The longer you waited, the bigger it seemed. The bigger it seemed, the harder it felt to start. That is the trap. Archangel Michael's command to listen now was a direct confrontation with delay. Now disrupts postponement. Now interrupts overthinking. Now forces clarity. Delay is comfortable because it protects you from immediate discomfort. Acting requires courage. It requires vulnerability. It requires stepping into uncertainty. But postponement carries a hidden cost: stagnation. And stagnation breeds frustration. The fear of missing it is not meant to create panic. It is meant to awaken priority. Some moments are heavier than others. Some decisions carry multiplier effects. The 3-minute window you were told about represents decisive timing. It symbolizes the importance of acting while conviction is alive. Here is another truth. Delay often comes from subtle disbelief. Not outright rejection, but partial doubt. You may believe breakthrough is possible, but you question if it is possible for you. So you wait. You test the waters mentally instead of stepping in physically. But destiny rarely rewards half-belief. Financial freedom requires full participation. It requires trusting that when revelation comes, it is an invitation, not an illusion. When clarity surfaces, it is guidance, not coincidence. Imagine standing at the edge of a doorway labeled overflow, yet choosing to sit down and think about whether the door is real. The door remains open. The invitation stands. But hesitation keeps you outside. Delay also affects confidence. Each time you postpone a decisive act, you weaken your trust in yourself. You begin to see yourself as someone who intends but does not execute. That identity quietly shapes future behavior. But when you act promptly, you build self-trust. And self-trust strengthens courage. The enemy cannot stop your potential directly, but he can encourage delay. Because delay gradually erodes momentum. And momentum is essential for breakthrough. Right now, reflect honestly. Where have you been postponing what you already know to do? Where have you delayed alignment? Where have you hesitated to step forward? Awareness of delay is the first step in defeating it. This message is not about condemnation. It is about urgency. You are still here. The window is still open. The opportunity has not disappeared. But awareness must translate into movement. In the next part, you will hear a direct decree, an authoritative declaration over your finances that seals what has been activated and confronts every lingering force of stagnation. Prepare your spirit, because what is about to be spoken carries power to shift atmosphere. Archangel Michael commands you to listen now. 3 minutes stand between you and total financial freedom. Miss this and live with lifetime regret. You have confronted the root. You have understood alignment. You have identified delay. Now the atmosphere shifts, because revelation prepares the ground, but decree releases authority. This is the moment of declaration. Imagine standing in a courtroom where accusations of lack, cycles of stagnation, and years of financial pressure have presented their case against you. The evidence looks convincing. Missed chances, lingering debt, unfinished goals. But then a higher authority rises, not to debate the past, but to issue a ruling over your future. Archangel Michael's decree is not emotional hype. It is a spiritual pronouncement. And when a decree is spoken in alignment with divine will, it does not merely encourage, it establishes. Hear this clearly in your spirit. The cycle of financial stagnation is broken. The agreement with scarcity is revoked. The season of survival is closing. A new flow is being authorized. This is not about denying past struggles. It is about redefining your trajectory. For too long, pressure has attempted to shape your identity. But identity does not bow to pressure. It bows to authority. And the authority of heaven is speaking over you now. Every unseen resistance that slowed your progress is confronted. Every silent sabotage rooted in fear is exposed. Every pattern of delay loses permission to continue. The decree establishes new ground under your feet. You may not see immediate fireworks, but decrees shift atmospheres before they shift outcomes. First, peace replaces panic. Then clarity replaces confusion. Then courage replaces hesitation. And as those internal shifts stabilize, external results begin aligning. Receive this declaration. You are not destined for endless financial strain. You are called into stewardship, increase, and impact. Resources will no longer slip through your hands without wisdom. Opportunities will no longer pass unnoticed. Discernment sharpens. Discipline strengthens. Favor aligns. The decree also aggresses provision from unexpected places. Financial freedom does not always arrive through one dramatic event. Sometimes it arrives through ideas, connections, timing, creativity. The decree releases awareness of doors you previously overlooked. It activates boldness to walk through them. Understand something powerful. When a decree is spoken, it requires agreement to manifest fully. Passive listening dulls impact. Active reception amplifies it. You must internally say, "This is for me." Not arrogantly, not fearfully, confidently. As this declaration settles, visualize chains dissolving, not dramatically, but steadily. Imagine weight lifting from your decisions. Imagine planning with expectation instead of anxiety. Imagine giving without fear. Imagine checking your accounts without dread. These are not fantasies. They are previews of alignment taking form. There is also protection in this decree. Financial breakthrough attracts new responsibilities. It requires stability of character. The decree covers you with wisdom to manage increase well. Freedom without wisdom leads back to bondage. But freedom with wisdom multiplies. Right now, something is stabilizing in your spirit. You feel it. A seriousness, a clarity, a shift from emotional excitement to grounded authority. That is the atmosphere changing. But there is one more step. Seal this decree with your voice. Type "IT is done" in the comments. Blessing code 911 is now activated. When you type it, you are not begging. You are affirming. You are placing your agreement on record. And agreement solidifies authority. Let this moment not fade into memory. Let it mark transition. because what has been declared cannot coexist with old thinking. The decree demands consistency. It calls you to guard what hath been activated. You may feel resistance attempt to return tomorrow, thoughts of doubt, familiar fear. But remember this decree. Return to it. Stand on it. The big when pressure whispers otherwise. Something irreversible has begun, and you will be glad you positioned yourself for what is about to be revealed next, because the final safeguard of your freedom will ensure that this breakthrough does not fade, but becomes permanent. As this decree settles over your life, understand that your response can help carry this same authority into homes across the world. When you release a seed through Super Thanks, membership, or PayPal, you become part of a river that finances freedom for others still battling in silence. The Lord declares, I will open the windows of heaven and pour out a blessing you will not have room to contain, and that promise breathes over every obedient giver. When you act, you are not supporting a channel. You are fueling a movement of light. I feel led to invite you. Let your giving become your agreement with this decree. The PayPal link is waiting in the description, and the QR code on your screen is a doorway for your seed. As you sow, may protection and increase surround your household. Move now, activate your support, and let your obedience echo in eternity. Archangel Michael commands you to listen now. 3 minutes stand between you and total financial freedom. Miss this in live with lifetime regret. A decree has been spoken. Atmosphere has shifted. Authority hath been established. But now comes a truth that many overlook. Breakthrough must be guarded. What has been activated in your life is powerful, but it is also delicate in its early stages. Just like a seed that has just broken through the soil, it carries life, but it requires protection. Financial freedom does not only arrive through dramatic miracles. It stabilizes through consistent stewardship. The first thing you must guard is your mindset. The battlefield will attempt to relocate itself back into your thoughts. Old narratives will try to whisper again. This won't last. You felt hopeful before. Nothing really changes. These thoughts are not harmless. They are invitations back into agreement with limitation. Guarding your mindset means confronting those thoughts immediately. Do not entertain them. Do not analyze them. Replace them. When doubt speaks, answer with the decree. When fear predicts failure, answer with alignment. When anxiety tries to rise, anchor yourself in the authority that has already been released. The second thing you must guard is your confession. Words are not decorations. They are direction. If you constantly speak struggle, you reinforce struggle. If you consistently speak wisdom, discipline, and provision, you strengthen that pathway. This does not mean denying reality. It means refusing to magnify lack above promise. There is a difference between acknowledging a challenge and declaring defeat. Guard your language so it aligns with your new identity. You are no longer someone waiting for freedom. You are someone walking in it. The third thing you must guard is your environment. Who you listen to matters. What you consume matters. Conversation soaked in cynicism can erode conviction. Constant exposure to fear-based narratives can rebuild anxiety. Surround yourself with voices that reinforce growth, discipline, and faith. Protect your mental and spiritual atmosphere the way you would protect a valuable investment. Another crucial safeguard is consistency. Breakthrough is not sustained by emotion. It is sustained by habits. Continue the practical actions that reflect alignment. Maintain clarity in your finances. Review your goals. Make disciplined decisions even when no one is watching. Small, consistent obedience builds stability. You must also guard against pride. When progress begins to show, the temptation to rely solely on yourself can rise. Remember, this journey began with divine alignment. Stay humble. Stay grateful. Gratitude protects momentum. It keeps your heart open and your perspective clear. There is also a need to guard against impulsiveness. Sometimes when people sense new freedom, they overcorrect. They swing from extreme caution to reckless spending. That is not freedom. That is imbalance. True financial freedom carries wisdom. It knows when to invest, when to save, when to give, and when to wait. Understand this clearly. The enemy often attempts counterattacks after breakthrough moments. Not dramatic attacks, but subtle tests. An unexpected sense. A discouraging comment. A sudden wave of doubt. These moments are not signs that the decree failed. They are opportunities to prove that your alignment is real. This is where many lose ground. They interpret resistance as reversal. But resistance can simply be confirmation that you are advancing. Stay steady. Do not retreat. If this message is strengthening your resolve, do not keep it to yourself. Share this video with someone who is on the edge of their own breakthrough. Like this message as a declaration that you will guard what has been activated. Subscribe if you are committed to walking in continued alignment. And in the comments, declare that you are protecting your freedom. Your engagement is not routine interaction. It is reinforcement of your commitment. And now hear this carefully, because it carries weight. Guarding your breakthrough requires awareness beyond this moment. Inspiration fades if it is not revisited. Revisit the declaration. Revisit your written identity statement. Revisit the prophetic act you committed to. Let repetition strengthen what was activated. And here is something you must remember. Freedom is not fragile when it is rooted in discipline. It becomes resilient. The more you guard your thoughts, words, and actions, the more stable your progress becomes. What you have stepped into is not temporary excitement. It is a shift in trajectory. But trajectory must be maintained. Plan intentionally. Act wisely. Speak carefully. Think deliberately. And hold on to this awareness, because in the next part, you will see a vivid picture of what your life looks like when this breakthrough matures fully. You will see the testimony forming before it manifests completely. Archangel Michael commands you to listen now. 3 minutes stand between you and total financial freedom. Miss this and live with lifetime regret. You have confronted the battle. You have broken agreement with limitation. You have acted. You have guarded what was activated. Now lift your eyes and see what awaits you on the other side of consistency. Because financial freedom is not just about numbers increasing. It is about transformation unfolding. Picture your life 1 year from now if you remain aligned. The anxiety that once greeted you in the morning hath been replaced with clarity. Instead of waking up calculating survival, you wake up planning expansion. There is margin where there once was pressure. There is strategy where there once was scrambling. Transformation begins internally before it becomes visible externally. The first sign will not necessarily be a dramatic deposit or sudden windfall. It will be peace. A steady, grounded confidence that you are no longer trapped in cycles. You will notice that financial decisions no longer paralyze you. You evaluate, decide, and move forward without fear gripping your thoughts. Then comes discipline that feels natural instead of forced. Budgeting becomes empowerment, not restriction. Saving becomes strategy, not sacrifice. Investing becomes wisdom, not intimidation. You no longer avoid looking at your accounts. You engage with them intentionally. As months pass, small results accumulate. Debts shrink. Savings grow. Opportunities multiply. A momentum you once dreamed of begins to materialize quietly but steadily. You look back and realize that what once felt impossible has become your new normal. But the transformation testimony goes deeper than personal comfort. Financial freedom reshapes your generosity. When you are no longer consumed by survival, your hands open. You begin to bless others without fear of lack. You give with joy instead of anxiety. You support causes, family, and missions from a place of overflow rather than obligation. This is where purpose expands. Resources increase your reach. You say yes to opportunities that once felt out of reach. You invest in growth. You take calculated risks that align with vision. Your world enlarges. Your relationships also shift. Financial stress is one of the greatest silent strains in households. As pressure decreases, peace increases. Conversations change tone. Hope replaces tension. Unity strengthens. Imagine sitting at a table one day, reflecting on this season, and realizing that everything shifted because you responded when the command came. Because you refused to delay. Because you guarded your breakthrough. That reflection becomes your testimony. And testimonies carry power. They inspire others who feel stuck. They demonstrate that cycles can be broken. They reveal that alignment works. Your transformation becomes evidence. But here is something crucial. Transformation does not eliminate challenges. It redefines your response to them. There will still be unexpected expenses. There will still be market fluctuations. There will still be moments of uncertainty. But you will face them from a position of stability instead of panic. That is freedom. Freedom is not the absence of storms. It is the presence of confidence during them. As your breakthrough matures, you will also notice increased discernment. You will recognize opportunities faster. You will detect risks earlier. You will feel guided in decisions with clarity that once seemed distant. Wisdom becomes sharper because fear is quieter. There may even be moments of acceleration, unexpected promotions, new income streams, creative ideas that generate revenue. When those moments come, you will be ready because discipline prepared you. This is the transformation testimony that awaits you, not a fantasy, but a trajectory. And trajectory is built one aligned decision at a time. Do not underestimate how different your life can look in 12 months. Small, consistent actions compound. Identity solidifies. Confidence grows. Momentum builds. What feels incremental now becomes exponential later. And one day, someone will ask you how you broke free. And you will remember this moment. The urgency. The decree. The decision. You will remember that 3 minutes once stood between you and freedom, and you chose to listen. But before we close this journey, there is one final intensity rising. A last reminder of what is at stake. Because the opportunity is real, but so is the consequence of ignoring it. In the next part, the urgency sharpens one final time. A closing warning that ensures you never drift back into delay. Archangel Michael commands you to listen now. 3 minutes stand between you and total financial freedom. Miss this and live with lifetime regret. We are standing at the edge of this prophetic journey. You have seen the battle. You have heard the decree. You have envisioned the transformation. But before this message seals, there must be one final warning. Clear, direct, and impossible to misunderstand. Moments like this do not come every day. There are messages that inspire, and there are messages that interrupt destiny. This was not designed to entertain you. It was sent to confront you. and confrontation always demands a response. The 3-minute window you heard about from the beginning was never about a literal ticking clock alone. It represents decisive timing. It represents the space between awareness and action. It represents the fragile line between breakthrough and regret. Right now, you stand on that line. There is a version of your future where you act boldly, remain disciplined, guard your mindset, and walk steadily into financial freedom. And there is another version where this becomes just another powerful message you once heard but did not fully implement. The difference between those two futures is not talent. It is not luck. It is not external conditions. It is decision. Regret rarely screams in the moment. It whispers years later. It shows up when you see someone else step into what you once felt called to pursue. It surfaces when you realize that the opportunity was not withheld. It was ignored. It echoes when you recognize that fear, delay, or distraction quietly stole momentum. This is the final warning. Do not let familiarity neutralize urgency. You have heard messages before. You have felt conviction before. But repetition can create numbness. You may think, I've heard similar things. Yet something about this moment feels heavier, clearer, sharper. That weight is not accidental. When Archangel Michael commands you to listen now, it signals that heaven does not want this dismissed as background noise. The intensity you feel is protective. It is designed to prevent you from drifting back into autopilot. Autopilot is dangerous. Autopilot keeps you busy, but not aligned. It keeps you occupied but not progressing. It keeps you thinking about change instead of executing change. And over time, autopilot builds comfortable stagnation. You must resist the urge to return to normal without adjustment. Ask yourself honestly, what will be different after this message? What specific action will you continue? What mindset will you guard? What habit will you refuse to compromise? If there is no clear answer, then the window begins to close. The final warning is not about fear of punishment. It is about awareness of consequence. Consequence is not always dramatic. Sometimes it is subtle. A missed investment, a delayed opportunity, a connection never pursued, a discipline never maintained. Small choices accumulate into large outcomes. But hear this also, urgency is a gift. It sharpens focus. It clarifies priority. It cuts through distraction. And distraction is one of the greatest thieves of destiny. Notifications, routines, endless information. These can dilute conviction if you allow them to. Protect this moment. Do not let it fade the moment this video ends. Revisit your written declaration. Review your financial plan. Take the next step you identified. Schedule the action if necessary. Make it concrete. There is a seriousness in the atmosphere now because destiny requires maturity. Financial freedom is not just about relief. It is about responsibility. And responsibility demands consistency long after emotion fades. You are capable of this. The very fact that you have listened this far proves hunger. It proves awareness. It proves readiness. But readiness must convert into rhythm. Rhythm is sustained obedience. The final warning is simple. Do not delay what you already know to do. If there is a call to make it. If there is a habit to break it. If there is a step to take it. If there is generosity to release it. If there is fear to confront it. 3 minutes stand between you and total financial freedom. Those 3 minutes symbolize decisive obedience. Do not trade decisive obedience for comfortable hesitation. Because once this moment passes, you will either step forward empowered, or look back wondering. And now, as we approach the final part, everything converges into one sealing declaration, one closing affirmation, one final activation that ensures this does not become regret, but becomes reality. Archangel Michael commands you to listen now. 3 minutes stand between you and total financial freedom. Miss this and live with lifetime regret. This is the sealing moment. The journey that began with urgency now concludes with assurance. The warning transforms into promise. The confrontation settles into confidence. You were not brought here to be intimidated. You were brought here to be activated. From the beginning, you were told that 3 minutes stand between you and total financial freedom. Those 3 minutes were never about pressure. They were about priority. They were about compressing hesitation. They were about awakening you to the power of decisive alignment. And now, as you stand at the end of this message, something inside you is different. You are more aware, more intentional, more resolved. The battle over your finances has been exposed. The hidden roots of delay have been uncovered. The law of divine alignment hath been revealed. The prophetic act hath been initiated. The decree has been spoken. The breakthrough has been guarded. The future transformation hath been visualized. The final warning has been delivered. Now comes the seal. The seal is not dramatic noise. It is settled conviction. It is the quiet but immovable confidence that your season has shifted, that what once defined you no longer has authority over you, that survival no longer dictates your decisions, that discipline, wisdom, and courage now shape your path. Receive this assurance clearly. You are not walking into financial freedom alone. The same authority that commanded you to listen now stands guard over what hath been activated. Protection surrounds your progress. Clarity accompanies your decisions. Favor aligns with your obedience. This does not mean there will never be challenges. It means challenges will no longer intimidate you. They will refine you, strengthen you, increase your capacity. Because you are no longer reacting from fear, you are responding from identity. Financial freedom is not a distant dream. It is a disciplined reality unfolding step by step. It is built on the small, consistent choices you now understand the importance of. It is sustained by the mindset you have committed to guard. It is expanded by the generosity and wisdom you choose daily. You will look back at this moment and recognize it as a turning point, not because lightning struck, but because decision solidified, because delay lost its grip, because alignment replaced confusion. Here is peace in sealing, peace that says, it is established, peace that says, I will not drift backward, peace that says, this time, I follow through. Let gratitude rise in your heart. Gratitude anchors progress. Gratitude keeps pride away. Gratitude reminds you that provision flows from divine source, not merely personal effort. As you move forward, remain thankful. Thankful in growth. Thankful in discipline. Thankful even in learning. Now seal this moment with your declaration. My season has changed in the comments. Blessing code 318 is now activated. When you type it, you are not making noise, you are marking transition. You are declaring that the old cycle has ended and a new one has begun. Words matter, and this declaration carries weight. Stand confidently in what has been spoken. Return to it when doubt whispers. Revisit it when distraction tempts. Remember the urgency that started this journey. Remember the authority that confirmed it. You are stepping into a season of stability, a season of clarity, A season of increase that does not corrupt your character but strengthens it. A season where generosity flows naturally because fear has loosened its grip. Let this closing moment be filled with assurance. You are capable. You are aligned. You are protected. And you are positioned. 3 minutes once stood between you and total financial freedom. You chose to listen. You chose to respond. And because you responded, regret will not define your story. Obedience will. Walk forward with confidence. Walk forward with discipline. Walk forward with that hand is sealed. As this season seals over your life, remember that your obedience today can unlock freedom for someone still waiting in darkness. When you sow through Super Thanks, become a member, or release a seed through the PayPal link in the description, or the QR code flashing on your screen, you are extending this light beyond yourself. The Lord declares, "Those who sow in tears shall reap in joy," and that promise breathes over every giver who acts in faith. I feel this deeply. Your seed is not a donation. It is a prophetic agreement with expansion. When you move, heaven multiplies impact. As you give, may open heavens rest over your household and may provision pursue you. Do not delay this holy response. Activate your support now and let your obedience echo into eternity.